Hey, Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana. These indictments are coming out more and more from different sources and different groups, and there's already been deaths over these indictments from people evidently trying to serve them or people trying to enforce the law. This is a real battle going on, and it isn't being talked about much like it should be. We need to respect the battle that goes on. We need to pray for these individuals, and we need to be uh, positive and support what's going on here civilly, police-wise, military-wise. This is big stuff.
And a typical year, there was one piece of research I saw where the last, nationwide summary of sealed indictments that she could find was for 2006, and that had, I think it's Teresa Truther, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
And so her research had concluded that 2006 had 283 sealed indictments in all of America for the year. And that's the last good data that we have. But again, that's only 11 years ago. So to have almost 2,000 of them that have all been filed in just the last month or so.
2,000 filed in a month. 2,000 filed in a month. Wow. This is big stuff.
The Marines that actually flew over CIA headquarters, they didn't land. Some of the rumors online were that they landed and there was 2,000 troops. That's not true.
Right.
But there were a sizable number of people in those helicopters, maybe a few hundred, and they didn't actually land, but it was a show of force, really, again, making it visible that there is some kind of civil war taking place inside America right now.
Who is...
So this is a civil war, he claims, and is going inside America. Hopefully it's also going in Europe and Central America and other nations as well. I know Russia's had its battles too to clean up these elite groups.
Filing these indictments, is it part of the Mueller investigation? Is it,
Yeah, that is part of it, but it's also a lot bigger than that. There are multiple secret grand juries that are going on, and
so we forget that there are multiple secret grand juries going on as we speak with all these indictments in the last month or so. 2,000 of them. It would take multiple secret grand juries to be doing this stuff.
One of the briefings that we got recently, and in this case when I say we, I'm speaking of Corey Good, and we have to be circumspect about where these briefings are coming from, and I will stick by that, but I can tell you that the briefings are now coming from a lot more places than before. And some of the things that I'm privy to that I can't share have made it very clear to me that this is a highly, highly organized alliance with...
I find that interesting, a highly organized alliance. So we're seeing a separation, probably the DOJ, military, and other groups, between those that are behind it and those that are against it. So, pray for these guys, be involved in part of the positive part of it, because this is going to be life-changing in the United States, if not the world. If we can pull it off, then I think other countries will follow as well.
Multiple factions. It's very real. These people are fighting. They're dying. And I really think...
Now, he says these people are really fighting, and some are being killed or some are dying. Think about that. Think about that. This is real. People are dying over this situation.
It would be good for all of us to start to respect that more and not treat this like it's a game and not treat this like it's some kind of UFO fantasy that would be in the same category of like gnomes and elves and fairies.
Right.
But this is a real war. It's had to be clandestine, and that's the problem is everybody's a Monday morning quarterback. Everybody wants to say, why haven't they this and why haven't they that? And some people want to try to take credit for it. So I'll be the first.
Hey, would you like to know the traffic source
on the actions of the alliance? They're not asking me for my advice. I'm not telling them what to do. Nobody's, I only get to find out things pretty much after they've already been decided. So this is not me, and I'm not trying to read myself in as being anybody other than a journalist who's reporting on what I hear from various sources. But the sources are compelling because the indictments came from secret grand juries, and one of the briefings we got was that the secret grand juries were going to move forward a few months ago, approximately. They were ready to do this. This was earlier this year. And then something happened, and we don't know what. And again, if we did know, we probably wouldn't want to say it anyway because it gives the cabal too much information they can use.
Right.
But something happened earlier this year in which they came across a much greater treasure trove of new information that dramatically expanded the investigation and allowed them to capture a lot more of the higher-up people.
Wow. So you see the hand of God is in this too. And we're seeing that they got a greater treasure trove of information, and we were able to get some higher-ups. Because this is multi-level, multi-tiered. You got people doing the dirty work on the ground, and you got higher-ups as well. Make no mistake about it.
And so they were going to do the mass arrests. We would have already seen it. It would have been over and done with. People would have probably already gotten back to their lives and accepted some new unpleasant truths, just like they did after 9/11. Yeah, well, okay, we all kind of knew there were satanic people running the government, and now they've been arrested, and boy, doesn't that feel great, That's what it's going to be like. Life might not be that different once this actually goes down.
Yeah, go ahead. No, okay, then I'll go.
Yeah. I'm trying not to talk too much because some people think that's me being an egotist, but all I'm really doing is trying to inform in the short burst of time that we have.
Right.
And there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. Yeah. And when it comes to one thing that I'm always suspect about is that with these seal indictments, the information itself about the seal indictments apparently has been leaked. The same thing happened with the Las Vegas shooting when the crime scene photos were just leaked, and they were authentic. They were real. Why leak them?
So the problem with leaking again is probably real. Hopefully it isn't too serious, but it may be.
Why, this indictment information appears to be legitimate. I haven't been able to confirm it, but certainly the information has been leaked. I just find that very, very interesting. Somebody is trying to send a message before the arrest happened.
Well, let me take it one step beyond that. The people who are listening to your show, Jimmy, they are not just bystanders who are powerless. The Alliance needs our help. This is not just us sitting back and eating popcorn and watching the show. And it's not just about reading everything you can read online and getting excited about the headline and I wonder if it's going to happen this week, and then if it doesn't, you're bummed out and
right.
Oh man, this whole Alliance thing, it's a fraud, They said they were going to do it on such and such and it didn't happen.
Right.
There's been so many groups that have been organizing this that they were ready to do something and there's a mole or there's surveillance or they're not careful enough and they get wiped out. And it's happened repeatedly. And I hate to say this, but I am culpable as well. There are times in the past where I zealously leaked intel that I got without really having a vetting system,
mm-hmm.
and I compromised certain Alliance operations.
Mm-hmm.
So compromising these Alliance operations is easy to do because we're amateurs, we're not professionals. Scary thought of the consequences of some of that.
And I've had to live with that, and
mm-hmm.
it's not fun. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to all be careful about, being sure that the information that we get is actually going to be beneficial.
All right, so let's see what else is going on here.
So, for example, it's probably not beneficial for anybody to actually know when they're going to do this.
Well, that's exactly the point. That's, just like when Mueller, on a Friday afternoon, They leaked the information about the sealed, the indictments that were coming down from the grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody in Washington has a weekend to totally freak out. Nobody in Washington for 3 days was trusting anybody, right? And that's an effective way to take advantage of the media. And that's what's going down now too with these indictments. Everybody is sweating. Nobody is trusting anybody, and that's a good way to have something rise to the surface and expose themselves.
Well, let's talk about Al Franken for a second.
Sure.
SNL comedian who transitions into politics, gets elected, is a senator, and has now been, exposed on multiple levels for sexual malfeasance. That is the opening salvo of how the Harvey Weinstein's #MeToo campaign that is just obliterating Hollywood is going to spill right over into Senate, the House of Representatives, legislative branch, executive branch, etc., in the United States government. So it's already happening. But just to reiterate what I was going to say before, because I was building up to a point I didn't quite get to.
What's that?
One of the most critical briefings that I've had is that the alliance is going to they're going to try to hold off on doing the mass arrests for as long as they possibly can, which I think probably even in the best case scenario, my gut tells me, I doubt it's more than a few months either way. But they're going to try to hold it off as long as they can while exposing the cabal to such a ridiculous extreme that everybody knows what's going on. And so by the time the arrests are done, there's really not going to be anybody who has a problem with it at all. And we're well underway in that process right now. There's a lot of this stuff that is being exposed right now that is so upsetting that, folks like you and me, Jimmy, we've been talking about this ever since the internet started.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've had a website. I've been posting disclosure-related content online since 1996.
Right.
And I only got online in December 95. So I've been doing this now for 21 years online. And everything that I've been telling people the whole entire time is all coming to a head now. So all of us, and by us I mean this audience, anybody listening, you are not simply a bystander who is powerless. The alliance is telling me to tell you, spread the word, help people understand what's going on, fight the suppression of the media, because the mainstream media is now a joke. What we're doing here is more valuable and is being heard by more people than the mainstream.
That's right.
We're deciding what the news is now.
That's right. That's right.
We're creating the news, and we are defining the narrative. And they have lost the...
So we need to understand that the cabal and these other elite groups that are really ugly are losing the media foothold they've had with a lot of the younger people and a lot of the people that are online. Not so much with the people that are brain dead or blockheads and won't believe anything but what the media says, a lot of the liberal groups. Some of these younger liberal people know that they're in trouble, and they know that their time is up. So this is going through multiple channels, online, offline. I really believe it is going on, and I believe they're setting up for mass arrests. Don't know if it's going to happen in 2 or 3 months or 6 months, but I believe this coming year, 2019, is going to be one of the most important years in world history with the United States and with some other countries that are also fighting this fight, whether it be in Europe, Central America, Africa, or Russia. I believe this is going to lead the way for a lot of other countries to take action and to come to the forefront that these national banks, these cabal-minded people, that these alliances, these evil alliances, need to be put in their place legally, physically, and their power and money needs to be taken away from them, and they need to be jailed, if not executed, or both, or given an opportunity like Bush Sr. was, liquid or legal dosage, and die that way. But they need to be imprisoned, if not executed, and their power needs to be taken away, their money base needs to be taken away, and they need to be stopped. So this may go on for some time, and it may never end until Christ comes and finishes up the rest of it.
The ability to control how we think, the control of the mind, the control of the emotions. They're trying, like you said, what you opened up our show with about how they're trying to just rip your guts out. And they want that because if you're traumatized, you can't think in a linear fashion, and you're so busy with work and family. And
I know.
Time to muse on this stuff. But there's, on the other hand, what have they done? They've ruined the economy. There's so many people out of work. They have all day to investigate this stuff. And so the majority of my time is spent doing research. I am researching any given day, probably 8 to 10 hours, if not more. And so I'm always keeping up with everything. Whether I use my research or not, I always have a catalog. And never have I seen such a perfect lineup. If this was a slot machine, it's all cherries. Bing, 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 bing. And we haven't quite seen the money dump out yet, but it's about to happen. The last couple cherries are going to slap in any second. And I have to say, between the briefings that are showing up on the internet, the briefings that I've become aware of through different sources, and then the actual events, it is so exciting. And it's too early to say definitively that we won, because the war is not over. But I would say it seems very, very likely.
It's interesting. He says we haven't won the war, and it's not over. It's ongoing. I think it's premature to assume that we have won, but we are making major headways in these areas, financially, bank-wise, morally, legally. I think there's also a great division in the legal areas, the media areas. You're going to have to choose which side you're on. Are you on the take side with these elite groups? I think politically it's going to be very much so that way in the states and federal government, locally. I think you're even in the law enforcement. And I think it's going to be that way in the higher echelons of the military and other groups as well. There are other groups besides the military, besides the media, besides political, besides law enforcement. There are other groups associated with this too. We forget the banking groups and financial groups. We forget all the financial groups as far as the stock market, as far as the other stuff going on underneath the table in all these financial areas. There's a lot involved in this, and I don't think anybody that's in the power and understanding of this is going to be left out. I think this is going to be ongoing for several years, way beyond 2019, probably into 2020 and 21 and 22, and probably, if Trump runs again, probably clear through 24 and beyond.
That the arrests will happen soon, and that they are going to be decisive in their results. And we can talk about the FBI insider that I've been referring to on 4chan. We can talk about the Q insider. Those are both.
Stop right there. Okay. I have gotten so much email about Q. Now, also email about you being Q. And when we announced, hold on. When I announced that you were going to be on the show tonight, of course, I get the 50 emails. Ask David if he's really Q. Okay, so I have to do that.
Really? You had 50 emails saying that?
49. You want me to forward them to
crap.
you? So,
yeah. I'd like to see that.
So what's the deal? Are you Q?
Oh, my God. Really?
David,
that is crazy, man. Okay. I have only recently been able to dig into some of the Q stuff. I'm very disappointed because this guy going by the pseudonym Todd Whiskey he's been cataloging the Q leaks, but he only kept it going through November 15th. And now he's basically stopped because he thinks Q is not telling the truth. So I can't access anything post November 15th. I have no idea how to navigate around in 4chan. It's staggeringly complex, and I think anybody. I'm trying to wrap my head around how people could even come to that assumption. The only thing I could possibly think of is that, as I said in my article when I covered this, it's almost too good to be true.
Right.
So this Q, no one has found out who the insider is, but the true Q, we have pseudo Qs dumping crap out there, but the real Q has some real inside information. He's dead on, whoever he is, the real Q is. And it's obviously that there's a lot of false flags and there's a lot of false information, but the real work is going on with this Q and with other military intelligence. I believe military intelligence is the key foundation for this, and this is why Flynn was involved from the get-go. And so the higher echelons of the military real intelligence is the real player in this and has been evidently for some time. Even before Flynn got in there with President Trump, he did. I really believe that Flynn put security around Trump so he's not dead and is going to be a key player in this. Trump is, and so are some of the Justice Department, and so are some of the FBI. Like I said, it's dividing. This is breaking open, dividing. You're going to be on one side or the other. Innocent bystanders in these higher levels aren't there anymore. You're either going to be involved in it or you're going to be against it. But there, in these higher echelons, the powerful people, there is no middle road. And we're going to find this out very definitively as things unfold this coming year and the year following this. I really believe that these 2 key years, you're not going to see crooks like Hillary Clinton run for office. You're not going to see Podesta get away with this stuff. You're not going to see these Pizzagate and these other groups get away with the crap they're doing, the satanic groups and these elite people for the crimes they've done. I think this is coming to a head. And it's going to be a very, very good thing. But we have to be diligently prayerful, and we have to be mindful that this is going on right now.
Because it's saying the same stuff that I've been saying.
Right.
So maybe that's the assumption is it pays off what I've been telling everybody so well that it must be me. But I have, I'm not going to do it over the air because it would be compromising to certain aspects of my personal life. But
okay, so
Jimmy, you know me well enough to know that with all the stuff going on in my life, and we're not going to get specific.
Right.
I don't have any time. I mean, okay, when I wrote the article where I summarized the QAnon disclosures, I had about 7 hours to do that whole article on a Sunday.
Given my access.
Did as fast as I could because my schedule right now is so insanely busy. To think that I would have the time to be a LARPer on 4chan, it's just ridiculous.
Well, okay, so that clears that up. Well, see,
I'm having a hard time even understanding how people think I could have done that.
Well, and so when the email started to hit me about Q, Jimmy, are you reviewing this? Here are the links. Go check this out. You got to read the Q material. And I dived into it a little bit, but for me, and this is, I'm not going to say specifically who I said this to, but they are listening now. I said exactly word for word what you just said. Too good to be true. You know, and that's it. And that's where I left it. I said we have to let all of this play out.
Let me also be honest with you, Jimmy. When it first started, I thought it was incredibly frustrating. It's like, why is he asking all these questions instead of just telling us stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I found that very frustrating. I didn't think it was real because, like I said, it sounded too good to be true. And I had totally rejected it for days. And it actually wasn't until two things happened. Number one is that Meganon, who I did establish his credibility, in a previous article, I had covered the whole thing. And at the time that I wrote that article, he was it. There was no Q, right? A week after I wrote that article and really kind of took Meganon and threw him into the spotlight.
Right.
And Alex Jones picks up the story after I'd started to alert everybody to this. Now they're not going to say that they got it from me, but it sure looks like it.
Right.
Then a week later, after I make this thing big, and anybody who thinks, oh, David is nothing, well, wait a minute. There's 313,000 views on that article, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's bigger than any of the mainstream media's articles right now.
That's
by a
right.
long shot.
By a long shot.
By a long shot. They're not getting 300,000 views.
Nope.
So look, I made this thing. For whatever reason, I have become sort of like an assignment editor for alternative media. If I publicize something, it's going to percolate through the whole system. And that's one of the reasons why the cabal hates me so much and why they want me dead. Because I can make something into a big deal. And so the fact that Alex Jones picks it up, big deal. The fact that I put it on the map that there's an insider on 4chan, and then a week later, there's a new insider who absolutely does appear to be, if not Trump himself, somebody in the White House. And I've analyzed the ciphers and the codes, and then the amount of weird, specific, unique information that's in there that nobody else would be in a position to know except Trump and his top advisors. I mean, it's bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. And so, but at first I thought it was BS. And then two things happened. Number one, number one was that Meganon, the same insider, after an appalling absence of 5 days, where he didn't say a word for 5 days, and I thought the guy had been killed, he comes back and he says, yep, Q is the real deal. And then I get another piece of data, which is Corey's own briefings, which, are as serious as a heart attack. These people, the Alliance have the same access to the surveillance that the cabal does. So I've had to live now, since I started working with Corey, in a reality where everything I say, whether I'm on the phone or whether I'm in a private conversation, doesn't matter where I am.
Is why email will always be superior to all the other.
So no matter what this guy is saying, it's being recorded. It's being monitored.
It's all
Incredible.
Being transcribed. And those transcripts are getting passed around. And I'm expected to be accountable for things that I say, even if I think nobody's listening. So when you start to find out that there's transcripts of stuff that you thought you were having in private conversation, and now you have to, now you're hearing through your friend questions about what you said, and nobody's supposed to know that you said that. How did that happen,
All right, so they're doing transcripts on this. Everything he said is being transcribed. So he wouldn't be being followed if it wasn't important and there wasn't some documentation going on here. This is also going on with the criminals. This is also going on with military people, higher up, and other people. It's going on with political people, financial people, people in the stock market, people in commodities, people in high corporations that have money, false corporations and groups that are getting money for these black op operations. It's going on in the CIA. It's going on in different government areas. DOJ in different government areas. It's going on in the White House, the Congress, the Senate. All this stuff is being recorded and being presented as documentation for what's going on for a lot of these indictments. So this is why they're taking their time on this and working on this. And it's all going to come out one way or another. There's not going to be anybody unscathed by this if they've got dirty hands. Some of the higher-ups may escape, but a lot of the ground people, a lot of people that have been doing dirty on their ground, they're not going to escape. I'm not so sure the money is going to, the money is not also being monitored and checked. I don't think the elite laundering of the money and the drugs and the crimes that are going on with children and human trafficking and a lot of these corporations that are using money for different things, I don't think they're going to escape either. I think all this is being monitored at this time, and you're going to be going one way or the other. You can go into Sing Sing, or you're going to end up dead, or you're going to end up being pulled on the carpet in these trials. You're not going to escape. There may be some high level people that are puppet masters that are going to escape, but when their money and their funding, their black ops operations dry up, it won't do them a dang bit of good either. And that's where it's headed with all this. Again, it's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. This is David Wicock. It's very interesting what is going on, what is being monitored, and what is being recorded, and has transcripts of. And believe me, it's in the financial markets, the investment markets, it's in these corporations, it's in a lot of these leading groups politically and financially, and in other areas that we don't even know of. I don't think any of this is escaping the view of the military intelligence and the other groups that are associated in helping them. It's just not the military. I think there are other associations that realize that they got to go one way or another and either get on the wagon or get off. But there's no middle ground anymore. Again, this is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Good day. These battles are real, and I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.